Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Breaking into IT with AT. I'm Taylor Made, and this week we are going to cover networking, and we're going to go over some networking devices as well as networking connection types and how networking plays its role in the IT space. So, today we're going to do a quick intro into networking. I'm going to give you an overview of some of the things that I just spoke about recently, and we will hop into it right now. So, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. It helps support the channel. And let's hop into it. So, computer networking refers to interconnected computing devices that can exchange data and share resources with each other. These network devices use a system of rules called communication protocols to transmit information over physical or wireless technologies. So, these communication protocols could be TCP, IP, UDP, and these are things that we'll go over later in the course. The devices that you will be connecting will be switches, hubs, routers, computers, servers, things of that nature. Computer networking, in a sense, is basically the connectivity of devices. So it's a fairly complicated, um, subject, but at the basis of its core, it's basically just at the base level, at the core of what it is, networking is connectivity. So here are a few networking devices that are covered in the CompTIA A plus. Switches. Switches are devices used to connect. Switches are used. Switches are devices used to connect multiple devices on the local area network, the LAN. They operate at the data link layer of the OSI model and facilitate communication between devices by forwarding data packets to intended recipients. So, LAN, your local area network, is basically a connection of devices in your area, your immediate area, and they operate at the data link layer of the OSI model. So, we will cover the OSI model a little later in the course, and that is something that is super important when it comes to getting your first job. So understanding the OSI layer model, I've had employers downright ask me in interviews, what is the OSI layer model? So be ready for that coming up soon here. Um, so switches. Let me show you guys what a switch is. If you go right here, this is what a switch looks like. As you can see, these ports where you plug in Ethernet cables, and that is basically what connects you to all the devices on your network. So if you're in an office somewhere and you have a camera system, a phone system, um, uh, devices just like computers, laptops, mobile devices, you have the internet, you have the cloud, and you have uh, your switch right here. And basically, what your switch does is it connects all these devices to the internet. Yep, right here. You can see, I guess this is a server, mobile devices, desks, printers. Yep. So, a switch, you guys kind of got the picture of what a switch is. Routers are devices. Uh, Routers are devices used to connect multiple networks together and facilitate communication between them. They operate at the network level of the OSI model and use routing tables to determine the best path for data packets to reach their destination. So, as you can see, routers and switches kind of have the same jobs. The router is routing the data packets to reach their destination, and the switch is basically facilitating communication between devices by forwarding the data packets to the intended recipient. So you've got a router that's routing the data from the internet to the internet, and then you've got your switch that is getting the data um, to your specific recipients. Wireless access points. Access points are basically devices that will help you amplify your network connection. So, wireless access points are devices that enable wireless communication between devices and a wired network. They provide wireless connectivity by creating a wireless local area network and allowing devices to connect to the network using Wi-Fi. So it'll basically boost your Wi-Fi. If you have a big building and you have a router somewhere on one side of the building, but you need Wi-Fi access on the other side of the building, or you just need the speed to be improved and the performance to be improved, sometimes or most of the time you're gonna install a wireless access point or an access point that is wired that is or an access point that is powered by Ethernet. So PoE, if you ever see PoE, you can basically just plug an Ethernet cord into one of these access points and they'll be powered up and they'll be ready to carry that signal. So wireless access points are basically amplifiers for your wireless signal. They allow your devices to connect to them if they're further away. Modems are devices that modulate and demodulate data signals to enable communication between devices over different types of networks. They are commonly used to connect to the internet by converting digital signals from a computer into analog signals suitable for transmission over telephone lines or other communication methods. So this is basically your interpreter between different networks and between data. As it sends, it'll send it either it'll convert the digital signals from a computer into analog signals, depending on the situation. Your network interface card, we already covered that. Your NIC card is just that small card with the PCIe Express bus on the bottom of it that can attach to your bus system. So it's important to note that while these devices are covered in the CompTIA A+, the focus is more on their basic functionalities, connection types, and troubleshooting rather than in-depth configuration and administration. So for that, you'll have to do a little bit more research, and I will also provide you guys more resources as well as more in-depth videos on some of these concepts, because I know we're covering them fast in this course, but we'll take a little bit more time to cover these things individually in the future. So you got your different types of network connections. We've already covered Ethernet. You know what an Ethernet cord is, the Cat5, Cat6 cables. Ethernet is the most widely used type of wired network connection. It uses Ethernet cables such as Cat5e or Cat6 to connect devices like computers, switches, and routers to form a local area network. Wi-Fi is a wireless network connection that allows devices to connect to a network without the need for physical cables. It utilizes radio signals to transmit data between devices and requires a wireless router or access point. We covered Wi-Fi in the last section a little bit as a connection type, but and everybody is pretty familiar with it. But we will go a little bit more in depth as we get through this course. Cellular network connections use mobile networks provided by cellular service providers. These connections enable devices like smartphones, tablets, and other mobile devices to connect to the internet wirelessly via cellular tubes. So this is the network that your service provider, like Sprint's deprecated, Sprint's out of there, but this is your service provider. This is T-Mobile. This is AT&T. This is whoever is providing your cellular service for your device. And basically what this is controlled by those towers. And basically cellular service is controlled by towers and that are controlled by your service provider. Here are some more type of networking connections. We covered Bluetooth before, satellite. We don't really use satellite anymore. It's often used in like remote areas or areas that don't have wired or cellular, so may not be available or practical. DSL, we don't use DSL anymore. You know, that's a broadband connection that uses telephone lines, and that's deprecated. Fiber optic. Fiber is, just remember when you talk about fiber is good over long distances. It uses thin strands of glass or plastic fibers to transmit data using light signals. They offer very high speed and reliable internet connections and are commonly used in business networks or high speed residential connections. So you'll find these in the suburbs. You will not find fiber in the hood, when I used to work for, I won't call out the company, but you always knew if you talked to a customer, if they lived in a certain area, fiber would be available. If they lived in other areas, fiber would not be available, unfortunately. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but they don't have no fiber in the hood. The hood is the last place to get fiber. So if you're thinking about living anywhere and you have the choice, I would say, you know, find somewhere that has fiber, and you'll find Publix, Whole Foods, all those things that make the area what it is. So next we got dial-up. Dial-up connections are older and slower type of network connection that use a telephone line. We already kind of talked about dial-up. Well, we don't really need to talk about dial-up because nobody uses it. There are just a few examples of the various types of network connections used today. Each connected type has its own advantages, limitations, and use cases depending on factors such as speed, range, availability, and cost. I would say definitely keep Bluetooth and fiber optics in your rear view mirror in the back of your head because those things are important. Your key technical terms. This will be the last part of this lesson today. So we'll talk about some key technical terms in the CompTIA A Plus when it comes to the internet. An IP address. When you think of an IP address, if you think of an IP, just think of it as like your home address for your computer. So your IP address is your public-facing address. It's a unique numerical identifier assigned to each device connected to a network. It allows devices to communicate with each other over the internet or the local network. So it's basically your address that you can receive and send mail from, which would be your network traffic. DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. When you think about DHCP protocol, it's a network protocol that automatically, so emphasis on automatically, assigns IP addresses and other network configuration settings to devices on the network. It simplifies the process of setting up and managing IP addresses. So if you want an easy way to manage your IP addresses, you want to use DHCP protocol because it sets them up automatically. DNS, domain naming system, is a system that translates domain names. For example, www.amazon.com into the IP address. It allows users to access websites using easy to remember domain names rather than remembering complex IP addresses. Your router, we kind of already covered the router. A network device that directs packets. Your firewall is a security device, a hardware and software device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predefined security rules. This has a lot to do with port protection. You'll hear a lot about ports when dealing with your firewall. It helps protect networks and devices from unauthorized access and potential threats. So it's going to be important coming up for our security course, but firewalls are a big part in securing your network because they regulate what traffic has access to what ports. Your network address translations, your NAT, is a technique used to translate private IP addresses used within a local network into public IP addresses used on the internet. It allows multiple devices to share a single public IP address. So this is a way for multiple devices. It's pretty self-explanatory. VPN, your virtual private network. If you're working in an organization and you're working remote, you probably understand what a VPN does. The VPN allows you to connect to that network of that corporation virtually. So a virtual private network is a secure connection that encrypts data transmitted between a device and a private network over the internet. It provides privacy and security by creating a private tunnel for data transmission. So it allows you to connect privately to your corporate network from a remote location. We already went over Wi-Fi. So these are some important terms. And that's basically what we'll do to wrap up today. We don't want to hold you guys too long. This week we will have another hands-on, kind of test to go over the networking portions of the CompTIA A+. I'll provide you guys with some more resources to dive deeper into routers, modems, switches, and hubs. Hubs are going to be a big thing as well. We didn't cover here, but a hub is similar to a switch but has some differences that are crucial in their implementation. So I appreciate you guys for being diligent and sticking with me up until this point. If you've made it through all 4 weeks, I want to give you a round of applause because we are going through this information fast, and we're trying to be as efficient as possible. Definitely utilize all the resources. I'm making these slides so that you guys can kind of have a direction or a roadmap on the information that is pertinent for your career and important for you to pass these certifications coming up that will ultimately propel you into your next level of into that will ultimately propel you to the next level. So thank you for watching. Go ahead and like and subscribe. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe the channel to support, and we'll see you next time.